What's going on, everyone? It's Sheena, aka Sheenapreneur, your favorite veteran. Today I want to talk about how you can get started in your government contracting journey while you are trying to transition out of your job. So that is something that I actually did personally. I've actually done it a couple of times with other businesses too. But more importantly, I've done it for government contracting. And I just wanted to give a couple of tips on, how you can transition out of your job, or if you've already lost your job, unfortunately, especially due to this, new climate. I know there's going to be a lot of people who are trying to figure out how to do something different rather than working in the federal government or the local government, or you just decided to leave and you want to get started on your own government contracting journey. So I am here to help. So we're going to get right into it. Let's start with those who are transitioning out of their job. You haven't left your job yet, or you're just trying to get prepared in case you don't have your job. So I would always recommend to start your business. Like, even if it's like you don't even really know what it's going to be and you just have a name that you've always wanted to use. Let's just say, Sheena Parker LLC, just start that part. Make sure that you check and see if the name, you just Google the name, see if the name is maybe taken somewhere else. You start there. If it's not, it looks like the name might be available. Then you go to your Secretary of State, register that name. Then you go to your the IRS website. Once you get that approval from the Secretary of State, usually that takes a couple of days. Then you go to the IRS website, register the name exactly the same way that you had it registered for with the Secretary of State. That's usually right away. You can go ahead and do that online. I think there's hours of operation that you can't do it, but nonetheless, you go on the IRS website. It's 100% free on the IRS website to do your EIN, which is basically like the Social Security number for your business. And I forgot to say, for the Secretary of State registration, it varies between states. Some states are free for veterans. Some states are $50. Some states are $500 per year, or something like mixed up, or just to register. So you start that. You got the name. You Googled it. You registered it with the Secretary of State. You got your EIN with that name. And so then you decide, okay, I'm just going to hold this name until I leave my job, or I'm going to just start getting started with government contracting, or really any business. But we're talking about government contracting for the sake of this video. Now, you're still working and you're trying to figure out, when am I going to work on what I need to do? So I always tell people to just look on, whether it's, if you've heard of sam.gov, or if you are familiar with your local state procurement websites, you just look up, write down 5 things that you know you're good at, or you list 5 things that you've already done as an employee. So let's just say, like, for me, I was in IT for 20 years, the whole time I was in the military. And so I could write down, ITIL certified contracts, right? So that's something that I would actually type in. I would write it down. ITIL certified contracts, or security plus based contracts, and that's all it is, IT lingo, for cybersecurity jobs or something like that. So you're just going to make a list: event planning, babysitting, write down 5 things that you feel are, something that you could maybe do in government contracting, or you could do as a business. But we're talking about government contracting, because believe it or not, there are babysitting contracts. But as you're transitioning, you're just trying to think about those 5 things that you have done, or if you want to add more to that, or just do 5 things that you are good at, that you're willing to do as a business owner, and then narrow that down to 3. Now, I say I'll give you 2 businesses that you can work on at the same time. I really don't like people to switch up. Be a master in your field. I don't like for people to have so many different things, because it gets confusing, and then some of those things that you end up going into don't make money. But let's just say you have these 3 things and you're like, I know I can do these almost in my sleep. So then you look up in your local area, whether it's, let's say you're in the state of Georgia, and you put in state of Georgia procurement. Okay, so with each state, they're going to have different registration requirements. You may already be registered. You can even do state of Georgia procurement and then space cybersecurity, and try to see if there's either a cybersecurity contract that's available, or there's one in the past. So if you see one that's currently available, let's say that you're like, you don't even know what you're looking at, right? So this is all kind of like high level overview for those who may be more familiar, or you can just follow what I'm saying. So you find something that's available in the next 2 weeks, let's say cybersecurity consulting, and you're like, oh, I've done cybersecurity, I got my certifications, I got all these things. And then you see that they have an opportunity that they're looking for cybersecurity consultants, and it's due on May 1st. And you're like, okay, I don't know what that means. Really, that means that the agency, whatever agency that is in the state of Georgia, is looking for cybersecurity consultants that can give them advice on whatever. And so now you have this large document where you're like, what are they asking for? I try to tell people to read the whole thing, but sometimes if it's a really, really large solicitation, you may not be willing to read the whole thing. And I wasn't that person either, so I'm not going to bash anyone for doing that, but just know that whatever you don't read, you might miss and you might lose out on an opportunity. But you want to go straight to the statement of work. It's like the type of work that's going to need to be done. And we're talking about cybersecurity consulting, so it can't be that difficult. But you're going to read the statement of work and you're going to decide, is this something that I can actually do? This sounds like exactly what I do on my job every day. You know, I'm still working, whatever the case may be. And so then it's the actual solicitation itself is going to tell you exactly what the agency is looking for. They're looking for the consultant. Okay, boom, I identified that's me. They're looking for you to have past performance, what's called past performance, which is you've done this in the past. So then they're going to either have a form or they're going to ask you to write it out some sort of way. And you're like, oh, I have 20 years of experience in that. And I've actually done it on the side here and there throughout the years. And you're going to put that information in the way that the agency is wanting it. Then they're going to ask a bunch of admin stuff because you already registered your business, right? So they're probably not going to ask for a whole lot more besides maybe a business license, which doesn't take that long. Or they're going to ask for like professional licenses, like maybe a certification or something like that. So basically, these are all the really, really granular details that they may ask in the solicitation. And then the agency is actually going to tell you exactly how they want the documents to be organized and uploaded, whether it's emailed, whether it's printed and mailed, whether it's submitted in a portal such as Jagger or, whatever the local procurement website is, preferably email. We prefer email way more because you can just put it in one document and then email it off and then live happily ever after. And hopefully you win. And then within that solicitation, usually if it's a request for quote, which is an RFQ, or a request for proposal, RFP, or ITB, which is an invitation to bid, they may ask for actual pricing. So you have to give them the pricing for whatever they're asking for. They say, look, we need to know what your hourly rate is to be a cybersecurity consultant. And you say, you know what, I'm going to charge them $100 an hour. Then boom, you writing $100 per hour or whatever. Like they might do a lump sum where they want to know they're going to need you 5 days a week, 8 hours a day for the full year. Give me the lump sum for the year. Then you just do the math. I'm not about to do the math right now, but you give them the math on that. And then that's what the agency is asking for. And then boom, you put in a nice pretty package. Like I said, whether it's email, printed mail, or uploaded into a portal, then you'll be able to submit that and then hopefully you win. Now I know I gave a very, very brief overview of what that looks like, but it's essentially really that simple. So when you're transitioning out of your job, I would say to get your business started and then go after an opportunity and bid on it. That's what holds a lot of people up, is that they're too afraid to bid. Whereas there's some people who just bid aimlessly, and then they may or may not win, and that could be disheartening as well. So as you're transitioning, that's something that you should do. Now, if you already lost your job, unfortunately, or maybe you just don't have a job at all, and this is like your first video learning about contracting, then hey, welcome. But you would do essentially the same process is going on. I would recommend everyone to just go onto your local website, your local state website, and find the opportunities there, because at the very least, even if you do local versus federal, and you don't want to do federal contracting through sam.gov and get registered and all that, then you can at least see how the state is, like how they push out their contracts, or how they push out their solicitations. And it's a good practice because they ask for, it seems like quite a bit of information, but it's sometimes a lot less than what a federal contract or federal solicitation would require. So I suggest people to just start with local, not because it's less money, because it could be more money. Some of my lowest contracts were federal contracts, so there's a lot of money at the state level. There's some states that are created equal, but I would say that local usually does pretty well for a lot of people. You can probably get more volume that way, especially if you're in maybe a more niche type industry. But nonetheless, you have plenty of time, if you're not working or whatever you're doing, to just submit bids. Get the practice regardless. The point of growing your business is to not have to bid. Now, sometimes you got to go back to the drawing board and bid, because Lord knows I've done that many times. I'm doing it right now. But then the relationships are really what you want to get to where your company's name leads into contracts and you don't have to bid. But in the meantime, in between time, you have these 3 industries that you want to focus on. And so you just go after opportunities in those 3 industries. Now, I said, of course, using the local website, which usually not 99% of them are free. But they also have other services like Gov govdirections.com and instantmarkets.com, which are free-esque, and GovDirections is free, where you can sign up, but then they send you an email with the opportunities based on your state and your industry, and they do federal and local solicitations that they send to you, and they do some grants, which I just kind of started using myself. But then once you click on the email, then it's going to ask you to pay. But what I used to do is just copy the title of the opportunity and then paste it in Google and just find it on the state website, because I was trying to do free first. And Instant Markets is pretty free. I think they started charging recently. I just haven't really figured out if it's because I was using them a lot, or if it's because they started charging. Someone told me recently that they just started charging. So you could use either of those services, or you can just go onto the local state website, and they're usually free to find opportunities for you to go after. And so you can just start getting your feet wet, bidding on contracts, and then hopefully you get to a point where you make a lot of connections and you don't have to bid. And for those who are not sure what you want to do, I would say also the same thing, to go in and look at some opportunities based on what you currently do in your job right now, or you've done recently in your job, or something that you're interested in pursuing, and trying to see if you can actually submit the bid. Submit the bid, find an opportunity, bid on it just to get the practice, and hey, you might win. So I just want to share that information, because I actually had to go through that myself in my government contracting journey, where I was actually working, and I kept my job until I had to make a decision. And so it wasn't that easy, but it was easy at the same time. So they say when it's time to go, right? So I've been 8 years strong with my company, and grateful that we are still kicking. But I have my course, GovCon Now, where it teaches about federal contracting, local contracting, and corporate contracting. I have a whole section in there for my veterans. We have our circle community, which is 100% free for you to join, and it's a community of experts and government contracting newbies. So we're all in there to help each other and share. So please make sure you leave something in the comments that you want to hear about in the future. Share this video with someone that you think might benefit from it. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. It really, really, really helps the algorithm when you guys do that. And I know you guys want to keep hearing my voice and seeing me talking about government contract, and I know that's what you want. So make sure you share this video. Make sure you keep the momentum going, because a lot of people are afraid right now. Don't want you to be afraid. We are still going strong. Fortunate for us, not a whole lot has changed, because we've really, really been in the local space. In the local, crossing my fingers and my toes, has not tremendously been effective for what we do. So until next time, y'all, it's your favorite veteran.